I'm going to talk about closure, and I think the best way to think about closure is to think of it as a way to protect variables or limit access to variables. And so I also think the best way to think about things is to think about actual examples of when you might use concepts. I struggle to think about concepts when people talk about animals or dogs or cars honking. It's more useful for me to think about what's an actual situation where I'm gonna use this. So one of the things I think you need to understand is scope. So if I have different scopes in JavaScript. So for example, I can create a variable called the global, and let's just set this to just set it to my name, Tom. And if then I create a function called access global, then I can do something with the global variable because it's a global variable. It's at the topmost level. It's outside of the function. It's available to this function. I don't have to pass it in, and it's also available to another function if I wanted to create another function that was called, I don't know, the person function. I don't know what that's gonna do, but let's console log global again. And so if I call the first function access global, you can see in the console at the bottom, then I get Tom because that's global. If I change this function to person, then again I get Tom because both of those functions can access the global scope, and that's global, which is Tom. If I protect this variable in some way, so let's put it into here, and you can actually see already. Let's call this now protected, and let's try and access protected, and I actually get an error because protected is within the scope of access global. So that variable protected is now protected. It's only accessible to the function access global or anything within that scope. So for example here, I can call access global and it'll console log protected because protected is within the scope of access global. This variable protected is now in the scope of access global, and we're actually going to change this to global, a constant called global, and we're going to change this here to a constant of person equals a function, and so the person function is console logging protected. the person function has access to this protected variable because it's within the scope, the same scope as this constant person. They're within the same brackets. They're in the same scope. So actually, if I return an object that has this person function inside, I should be able to call that person function and have access to, so let's see if I can console log protected. Well, it won't let me because it's protected, so I can't directly, even if I change this constant to let, so I can change it to variable, but I still don't have access to it because it's not in the global scope anymore. It's in this local scope, or the scope of global, and I don't have access to that from outside here. So it's closed off, or it's restricted, and that can be helpful if I have a variable or an array or some kind of data that I want to protect. I do still have access to protected, but only through the person method. So I can now do global, let's see if this works, dot person. It's not a function because I think I have to create another constant called, let's just call it A, and it's running the function. So then this here, now I have access to the person function by using A. So there you can see now I have access to that protected variable, but only through the person function. So only through the functionality of the person function. So I've decided what it is exactly that I want the user to be able to do, or the developer, or whoever is interacting with the code. I've decided what I want them to be able to do with that protected variable through only giving them access to the function. And that can be pretty useful for, and I think the good real life example is modules. So if you have a module that's doing a specific thing, let's call it a users module, and let's call this a function. And so this users module is going to hold an array of my users, and I don't want that to be in my global scope. I want it to exist only in the local scope of the users module, so that it is protected, and no one can just use any other function to modify that array. I only want specific functionality. I only want people to be able to access the array in a very specific way. So let's put 2 users in there, and same kind of thing. Let's say I want to be able to allow someone to list the users off. So if I create a constant that lists the users, and that constant is going to be a function, and it's going to loop through. So we're going to say users dot for each user. We're just going to, hold on a second, for each user put a bracket in there. We're gonna console.log the user. So that should give us a list of each of the users if someone calls that list users. Now users is protected. I can't access it globally. I can only access it within the users module, and so I need to return that function to the outside world. And so here I can try console.log users, and you see users is not defined. I don't have access to users, and that's the behavior that we expected. It's a local variable. It's local to the users module. However, I can create this function. Oh, excuse me. This constant that calls my function. So now I have access to that users module, and now I can call module.list users. If I call that function, it's going to give me Tom and Sally. I still don't have access, even if I use module.users. I do have access. Don't feel like I should have access. Let's see if I can call. Okay, users is, I'm pretty sure users is undefined. This is a good experiment. Let's see if I can console log. Let's see if I can console log. It's undefined. This is protected. I don't have access to it, but I do have access by the list users. So it's giving me very specific functionality. Because if I had access to users directly, then I would be able to modify it, add, take away. I don't have that functionality. I don't want someone to have that. So I just restrict it by using a function and protecting it with closure. That's all for now. I hope that was I hope that's helpful to somebody. It definitely was helpful to me to just run through that and explain it.